There comes a strange moment in every man's life. A moment when he looks in the mirror and no longer recognizes himself. Not because he's changed, but because everything he once believed in suddenly feels fake. He used to think strength was about conquering. That power meant controlling others. That silence meant peace. That winning the heart of the woman he desired was the pinnacle of being a man. But one night, he sits alone in the dark. And in the silence, he hears the screaming he's ignored his entire life. A loneliness that devours his soul. A thirst no woman can quench. A war no weapon can win. A prayer he's never dared to say out loud. Do you know that feeling? When you're tired of pretending to be strong. When you're smiling in a room full of people but feel like the loneliest one there. When you're holding a woman, yet your heart still feels empty. When you keep winning but feel absolutely nothing. That's when a part of you begins to die. And another part is preparing to awaken. Because you weren't born just to be a soldier, a hunter, or a high-performing provider. You were born to become a warrior, with the soul of a monk and the heart of a woman who's been broken, but still loves. And this is the story of those three souls, not three separate people, but three spirits living inside one man, trying to find his way home. The journey begins. He once believed that silence was weakness, that speaking more meant wisdom, and doing more meant strength. But then he realized, the world is so noisy, no one can hear their soul anymore. So, he chose to withdraw. Not to escape, but to listen. He sat in a quiet, dark room, where no one demanded him to be strong, successful, or man enough. And for the first time, he looked inward. He saw that his anger wasn't monstrous. It was just a little boy screaming because no one had ever hugged him. He saw that desire wasn't sinful. It was energy that had never been transformed. He saw that awakening didn't come from books, but from the courage to stop and ask, who am I? When I stop trying to be what they want me to be. The monk within him didn't appear on a mountaintop. He appeared the moment he sat down and faced the wounds he had never dared to touch. He cried. He trembled. He missed his mother. He forgave his father. He forgave those who broke him. Not because they deserved it, but because he needed to be free. Free from roles. Free from the myth of the ideal man. Free from the self that society forced upon him. And in that silence, he learned one truth. Peace is not the absence of war. Peace is knowing how not to let the wars outside destroy the soul within. But just as his mind grew still, another voice began to call him. Rise again, but this time not to prove anything. Rise to return home. He rose. Not as who he once was. Not yet as who he would become. The silence had cleansed his mind. But life is not lived in silence. Out there, it's still a battlefield. And each day, the world would test him. With temptations, with pain, with sweet voices trying to pull him back to sleep. So, he began to train. Not his muscles, not his charm, but his will. Will to not surrender to old pain. Will to stand in front of the woman who shattered him and not beg, not blame. Will to keep walking when everything inside wanted to give up. People say warriors are fearless. But the truth is, a warrior is someone who walks through fear with trembling steps and never turns back. He fought, not for fame, not for praise, not for the attention of women. He fought because his heart refused to die. Though it had been abandoned, betrayed, called too emotional, too sensitive, not man enough, he still chose to keep it alive. Because a man who loses his heart will forever be empty no matter how much he owns. He learned to suffer without blaming. He learned to lose without hating. He learned not to turn pain into rage, but into a quiet flame inside him that made each step deeply intentional. He stopped searching for enemies out there, because he knew the true enemy was the voice inside whispering, "You're not enough." So each morning, he looked into the mirror, not to fix his hair, but to look himself in the eyes and whisper, "I'm still here. I haven't given up. I'm not dead." Because real warriors know the battlefield is not outside, it's inside. And the one who survives is not the strongest, but the one most honest with his own pain. And from the ashes of that battle, another voice began to emerge. Not loud, not sharp, but soft and sacred. And for the first time, he heard the voice of the woman within. No one taught him this, that within every man is a deeply feminine part. Not weak, but intuitive, emotional, capable of loving without armor. That part once lived freely when he was a boy, when he cried because his mother didn't hold him, when he looked at his angry father and thought, "Why does love hurt this much?" That part lived in his eyes. The first time he fell in love with a girl, purely, sincerely, without calculation. But over time, that part got buried. Because life taught him to survive, never love too much. So he hardened. He performed strength. He avoided feeling. He chose women he could touch, but who'd never touch his soul. He built a mask. Stoic, logical, independent, untouchable, until he himself could no longer hear his own heart. But finally, after silence with the monk, after fire with the warrior, he allowed the feminine within to rise again. Not to become weak, but to become real. He began to cry, not from sadness, but because he could finally feel himself again. He began to write not to impress, but to peel away the armor around his soul. He began to say, "I need you not from desperation, but from courage." He learned to sit beside a woman without needing to control her, not forcing her to change, not needing her to love him perfectly. He learned to see her and see himself through her. He realized that the feminine within didn't need to be suppressed for him to be a man. In fact, it was because of it that he became whole. He understood. Tenderness doesn't weaken him. It awakens him. He no longer chased validation. He no longer feared heartbreak. He began to walk toward the woman who made him feel most alive. Not because she completed him, but because with her, he didn't have to hide. Because he had finally integrated the three parts of his being. The monk, who listens within. The warrior, who walks through fire. The woman, who dares to love again. And at that sacred crossing point, a new man was born. If you've made it this far, I don't need to know your name, your age, your wins or losses. I just need to know one thing. You haven't given up. There's still a part of you that believes life is more than routines and silent suffering. That your soul isn't meant to be caged in quiet despair. That maybe, just maybe, you were made for something more. And if that voice still exists within you, however small, however fragile, then hear this. I see you. I understand you. I honor the part of you still fighting to stay alive. I know. There are nights when you lie awake wondering if anyone would notice if you disappeared. I know. You've tried your best only to realize the things you thought would bring happiness didn't. But you're still here. Still listening. Still breathing. And that makes you rare. Not because of what you have, but because of what you haven't let go of hope. I'm not here to promise that awakening is easy. I'm not here to say it happens in one video, one night, one breath. But I am here to remind you, you are not alone. There are millions of men out there, dressed up, smiling, playing their roles, but dying inside. And if you're one of them, let me tell you, there is nothing wrong with feeling broken. Nothing wrong with being tired. Nothing wrong with not having it all figured out. Because this journey was never meant for the perfect. It was meant for the honest. For the man who dares to pause and ask, whose life am I really living? What am I still running from? Do I truly want to live like this 5 years from now? If the answer is no, then that is your beginning. You don't need to change everything overnight. You just need to begin. Sit. Listen. Forgive yourself. Breathe. Take one true step. Maybe today, you sit in stillness. Tomorrow, you write. Next week, you speak your truth. Next month, you cry and let yourself be seen. Next year, you'll look in the mirror and see a different man staring back. Not because he never bled, but because he never let the bleeding kill his soul. And if you need a final whisper, let it be this. You are the monk when you dare to be silent. You are the warrior when you walk through fire with grace. You are the woman when you love without apology. And when the three become one, you become the man the world never saw coming. Not to be a hero, but to be real. So real that just your presence makes others want to return to themselves too. Thank you for still being here. Thank you for not giving up on yourself. Thank you for believing that beyond all the storms there is still light. If you're ready now, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and whisper gently, I'm coming home.